poor woman with a baby was cruelly evicted from her home by a wealthy businessman. Roberta woke up early every day, even before the sun rose, to start her daily routine. She lived in an apartment in the city center, not every large home but full of love and care. Her first task was to prepare breakfast for her son Mateo, who was still sleeping peacefully in the next room while the coffee boiled on the stove. Roberta planned the day ahead, murmuring to herself about the tasks of her job, selling candies at the traffic light to make a living. "I won't need to produce many sweets today. Yesterday's sales weren't good, so there were many leftovers, and I can try selling them again today," she said to herself. Mateo, a 5-year-old boy, was the light of Roberta's life. He always woke up with a smile, ready to explore the world around him. "Mom, do you think we'll see a dog in the park today? I like it when they chase the ball. I think they are smiling too," Mateo said, his eyes shining with curiosity and enthusiasm. Roberta laughed at the comment, responding, "Maybe, my love. Dogs love the park as much as you do." After breakfast, Roberta accompanied Mateo to school. The road was long, but she took the opportunity to talk about the little things in life. "Mom, why is the sky blue?" Mateo asked, looking up in admiration. Roberta patiently explained about the sunlight and the atmosphere, admiring her son's endless curiosity. "It's like a big rainbow that can't choose just one color," she concluded. After dropping Mateo off at school, Roberta returned home and hit the streets where selling candies at the traffic light awaited her. "These candies won't sell themselves," she said, starting her sales. Each car was an opportunity to help with whatever little she could manage every day to support her family, which consisted only of her and Mateo. At the end of the day, when picking up Mateo from school, the reunion was always joyful. "Mom, you won't believe what I learned today," Mateo exclaimed, running into his mother's arms. He recounted the day's lessons, every detail a new adventure. Roberta smiled, marveling at her son's capacity for learning, and always replied, "I believe you, my dear. You're my little genius." At night, before bedtime, while Roberta read a story to Mateo, she reflected on the day and the challenges that lay ahead. Mateo, already drowsy, murmured, "Mom, when I grow up, I want to be strong and brave like the heroes in the stories." Roberta, her eyes full of emotion, responded softly, "And you will be, my love. You're already my greatest hero." She kissed his forehead, turned off the light, and left the room, carrying with her the silent promise to fight for a future where Mateo's dreams could come true. On a day like any other, in one of the city's huge buildings, Salazar, a very wealthy businessman and owner of a network of apartments, settled into his chair, turning it slightly to face Marco, his best employee, who stood attentively. "Marco, I've noticed a worrying increase in the number of overdue rents in our properties. This is unacceptable. We need a solution that sends a clear message: zero tolerance for arrears. I want you to visit each of those tenants, remind them what's at stake, and if they continue to delay payments, it's not just the roof over their heads, it's the peace of their lives. Make them understand that the consequences of not fulfilling their obligations can be unpleasant," said Salazar, his voice calm, but with a threatening tone that Marco knew well. "Understood, boss? And if they can't pay? If the reasons are legitimate?" Marco asked, already knowing that compassion was not a characteristic Salazar valued. Salazar fixed his gaze on Marco, a cold gleam in his eyes. "We're not in the business of, if they can't pay, we'll find someone who can. And for those who insist on hiding behind excuses, make sure they understand the cost of their delinquency. Use your persuasion skills, but be discreet. We don't need unwanted attention." With a nod, Marco understood. The message was clear. It was time to reinforce Salazar's control over his tenants, ensuring that the message was heard loud and clear. Roberta's morning started like any other, with the calm routine of getting Mateo ready for school and attending to her sewing chores. However, this tranquility was abruptly interrupted by firm knocks on the door. With a premonition, Roberta walked to the door and opened it, finding a man with a severe expression. "On behalf of Mr. Salazar, Mrs. Roberta, my name is Marco. I'm here by Mr. Salazar's orders. You and your son must vacate this apartment by the end of the week. You're already more than a month behind on rent and occupying the place of a tenant who is truly responsible. The orders are for you to leave as quickly as possible," the man said, his voice cold and distant, as if seeking not to feel any compassion for a single mother and her child about to be evicted. Trying to maintain composure in the face of such devastating news, Roberta responded, "But this can't be correct. Yes, we're facing financial difficulties, but I'm doing everything I can to pay as quickly as possible. Is there no way to discuss this, to at least wait a couple more days until I get the money? My son and I really have nowhere else to go." The unmoving man replied, "Mr. Salazar's decisions are always final. There's no room for negotiation or discussion when the word comes from him. And even if I wanted to, I couldn't help you in any way, any inconvenience, but you must make preparations to leave as soon as possible." Trying one last plea, Roberta insisted, stumbling over her words. "Please, there must be some consideration for our situation. My son is just a child, and we have no family or friends who can accommodate us. Is there really no way to grant a little more time?" Marco, showing no empathy whatsoever, concluded, "My orders are clear, and I'm not authorized to make exceptions. On behalf of Mr. Salazar, I'm sorry for your situation, but believe me when I say I can't help you. You'll receive a formal written notice and must obey, or you'll be forced out by the law." After Salazar's henchmen left, Roberta closed the door slowly, turning to face Mateo, who looked at her, waiting for answers. With an effort to mask her own despair, she said, "Don't worry, my love. We'll find a solution together. We can overcome anything." Her words were both an attempt to comfort Mateo and to convince herself that they would somehow find a way out. Roberta spent the rest of the day in a whirlwind of emotions, trying to find a solution to the imminent challenge they faced. She knew time was short and that she needed to act quickly to protect Mateo and herself. With few options available and candy sales dwindling, Roberta decided to seek help from the community, hoping to find some form of support or a temporary solution to their situation. She went to a small local grocery store and met the owner, who was a longtime friend. "Mr. Garcia, I beg you, if you know of anyone who could rent us a room or a small space, please let me know. My son and I are about to be evicted due to rent arrears, and I don't know who else to turn to. We're almost at the point of having to live on the streets," Roberta said, her voice trembling, but determined as she spoke with the grocery store owner. Mr. Garcia, with a compassionate look, seeing Roberta's complicated situation, responded, "Roberta, I understand what you're going through, and my heart breaks for you. I'll talk to some people and see if there's anything we can do. I can't promise anything because lately, everyone I know has a full house, including myself, but know that you're not alone." Grateful but still worried, Roberta continued her search, knocking on several doors, explaining her desperate situation to anyone who would listen. Each rejection increased her desperation, but she didn't allow that to diminish her determination. She knew she needed to stay strong for Mateo, who watched her with eyes filled with concern, but also with admiration for his mother's strength. Searching for a way out before the problem grew worse, Roberta and Mateo found themselves back in their apartment by nightfall, a space they would soon no longer be able to call home. Sitting together at the dining table, a heavy silence filled the air, interrupted only by Roberta's voice trying to inject some hope into the conversation. "Mateo, my dear, we'll find a way out. We'll always have each other, and as long as we're together, we can face anything." Mateo, looking at his mother, responded with a mixture of innocence and wisdom beyond his few years. "I know, Mom. I just wish I could help more. Everything will be okay, right? You're my hero, and I know no problem is too big for you, right?" His question, laden with hope and faith, strengthened Roberta, reminding her why she was fighting so hard. That night, while Mateo slept, Roberta remained awake, pondering her next steps to avoid an even worse situation. She knew the next day would bring even greater challenges, but she was also determined to find a light at the end of the tunnel. With Mateo by her side, she felt there was still hope, and it was that hope that propelled her forward despite the odds. "My son, I can't let you not have a comfortable bed to sleep in or a decent table to sit at for meals. I'll fight for both of us, even if I don't know exactly how yet," Roberta whispered softly beside Mateo. Tomorrow arrived with an unbearable weight, for Roberta and Mateo had exhausted all their options and now faced the cruel reality of no longer having a roof under which to call home with heavy hearts. They packed their few possessions into worn-out bags, every movement laden with deep sadness and paralyzing uncertainty about the future. At the door again came Mr. Salazar's thug to check the departure. "Roberta, truly I'm sorry you have to leave so quickly, but I assure you I gave you all the time I could. based on the orders I received," said Marco, his voice showing a hint of regret, but firm in the decision. "I know it's hard, but I have no other option. I hope you find a good place to live soon, even if it's in Afrian's or family's house." He finished the mantring to console the family. Roberta, holding Mateo's hand, firmly looked at the man with tears in her eyes, but no words of hatred or resentment. "Thank you for your patience with us. We'll find our way out of." Somehow she replied with a dignity that surprised even Marco, picking up their suitcases. Roberta and Mateo left the apartment, leaving behind not only a home, but also a piece of their lives and much of their furniture. The first days on the streets were the most difficult, without a place to work and without orders from customers. Roberta had no money to pay for a hotel. They sought shelter in parks and under viaducts each night, bringing with it a cold that pierced to the bone and a loneliness that weighed on the soul. Roberta did her best to keep Mateo fed and warm, sacrificing her own needs to ensure that her son suffered as little as possible. "Mom, I'm very cold," Mateo murmured one night, curled up under a thin blanket that barely offered protection against the icy wind. "I know, my love. I know," Roberta replied, hugging him tightly. "Let's stay together to warm up. Soon it will dawn, and I promise we'll find a warmer place tomorrow." On one of those cold days when hope seemed like a flame almost extinct, a figure approached. It was Miguel, a local journalist known for his work in highlighting the stories of the less fortunate in the community. "Ma'am, I'm working with families in need of assistance in this area, and I would like to help you," said Miguel, his voice full of sincerity. "I don't have many financial resources, but I believe we can share a bit of your story and how you and your son ended up here. Maybe by doing so, someone can offer even more than I can." Roberta, surprised and cautious but desperate for any glimmer of hope, accepted. "Thank you," she said, her voice weak but grateful. "Right now, any help is a blessing. I just want a better future for my son. He deserves more than this." Roberta remembered tears starting to run freely down her face. Miguel, sensitive to her pain, offered her a handkerchief. "I'm so sorry for your loss. Roberta, I think your son's father must have been an incredible man and would be very proud of how you're raising him. I'd like to know, did you try to negotiate with the apartment owner about the rent before the eviction?" Roberta's expression showed the anger she felt at the injustice she was suffering and told Miguel, "Yes, but we got no response shortly after the rent was overdue. A man representing Mr. Salazar, who is the owner of the apartment, knocked on my door and told me we had to leave there with my son within a period of 2 days. I asked if they could extend the deadline a little longer, but they denied me any opportunity to keep my home. I promise you, Roberta, that I'll do everything in my power to help. We're going to share your story, and I have faith that people will want to help you. You're not alone in this. You can be sure," said Miguel, his voice firm and full of promises. From that moment on, he would carry part of Roberta and her son's story with him. After accepting Miguel's offer, Roberta and Mateo began a new stage, although temporary, in a safe and welcoming environment. Miguel, for his part, felt honored to be able to help, aware of the positive impact he was having on their lives. "Don't worry about the space or any inconvenience. The important thing is that you're safe and comfortable together. We'll make this report, and we'll show the truth about Salazar," asserted Miguel, sharing Roberta's enthusiasm for justice and change. In his office, Miguel began to organize his thoughts about Roberta's report. He was in front of his computer, thinking about the best way to make the video. How can I make people really feel Roberta and Mateo's story? He wondered. He knew the story was powerful, but he needed the correct way to show it and make people interested. "I'm going to start by showing who they are, bringing the audience close to them, so that everyone sees that, despite everything, they have not lost hope," thought Miguel. He imagined the scenes he would use, wanting to capture the reality of Roberta and her son, but also show the strength they had. Miguel also considered the importance of mixing emotion with information. "I have to show not only the human side, but also the harsh facts, the reality behind what happened to them because of Mr. Salazar, and how that reflects larger problems in their lives and those of others." Firm in that idea, Miguel began to outline a plan. This video is going to be more than a story. It's going to be a call to action for change. He knew he had a challenge ahead, but he was ready to face it and do something that really mattered. Miguel spent the rest of the night planning, sketching out what he would say in the video, how he would present Roberta and Mateo's story in a way that would touch people, that would make them see the injustice being done to them by such a powerful person who hid his bad character with money. Tomorrow, I will talk to Roberta and we will put all this into practice, thought Miguel, as the first ray of sunlight came through the window. Miguel finally allowed himself a moment of rest. He knew the day ahead would bring its own set of challenges, but he was ready to face them. Roberta, Mateo, we're in this together from now on, no matter what the outcome, and we'll win, with the light of day bathing the city streets. Miguel was preparing for a decisive meeting with Roberta and Mateo. The tiredness of the plans from the previous night transformed into determination. A few minutes of waiting in the living room were enough for Roberta and Mateo to awaken and greet Miguel. Good morning. Today is the big day for the report, and I must say, I believe very much in the power of your story, began Miguel. What we do today can begin to change things, not just for you, but for many others in similar situations, said Miguel. Roberta, holding Mateo's hand, nodded. We're ready, after all we've been through. If our story can help someone, it will be worth it, said Roberta. I don't want any mother to go through what I went through with my son, she said. Perfect, said Miguel as he picked up his camera. I'm going to ask some questions, but I want you to speak from the heart, said Miguel. This is not just about the details of what happened, but about how you felt, what you learned, and what you hope for the future, Miguel added. As they prepared for the recording, Miguel shared with Roberta and Mateo the plan for sharing the video. Once it's ready, we'll share the video on all social media platforms, news sites, and anywhere else that can have an impact, Miguel explained. I'll contact friends, journalists, and activists to help with spreading the word, Miguel continued. It won't be easy, but I promise you, your story will be heard, and we'll fight together for justice, Miguel assured. With everything ready, Miguel, Roberta, and Mateo headed to a beautiful city park chosen for its serene atmosphere for the recording. As Miguel finished setting up the camera, he felt a mix of nervousness and excitement. I'm ready, announced Miguel. We'll start when you're ready, he said, adjusting the focus of the camera on Roberta with a nod of his head. She began, her voice firm despite the evident nervousness. My name is Roberta, and this is the story of how my son Mateo and I were forced to leave our home, Roberta started. But more than that, it's about resilience, about not losing hope even when all seems lost, she continued. Mateo, despite being young, looked directly at the camera, his expression serious. I just want people to know that even though it was hard, my mother always tried to do what was best for me, Mateo expressed. She's my hero, and she'll always be my greatest inspiration, he added. Miguel felt a lump in his throat as he listened to Mateo, reminding him of the greater purpose behind this recording. Roberta continued, sharing details about the challenges they faced from the eviction to the difficulty of finding a new home. My husband died 4 years ago, just a year after our son was born, Roberta revealed. We lived in an apartment, and he was the breadwinner until then, she added. But everything changed with his death. For years I had to work selling candy at the traffic lights, Roberta shared. But we managed to live in our own way, she concluded, staring directly into the camera. Miguel asked Roberta, and what led to you being evicted from the apartment where you lived? Roberta then responded excitedly. The candy sales were getting lower and lower, and my income wasn't good anymore. With that, I had to delay the rent for a month and kept saving money during that time until one day, a very ambitious and cruel man that many know as the businessman Salazar, Roberta continued. The owner of the apartment where I lived and many others in the city sent one of his employees to announce the eviction, she explained. I had just 2 days to vacate my home. I tried to ask for more time to pay, Roberta recounted. It wasn't much, but he said Salazar's words were final, and I was forced to leave with my son to live on the streets until I found Miguel, she concluded. Miguel then intervened, and that's why we're here today, sharing this story with you so we can make a difference. So we can help Roberta and Mateo find a new beginning, Miguel added. But they're not the only ones who need our help. There are many others out there waiting for a friendly hand, Miguel emphasized. Of that you can be sure. That's what I've been showing more and more here on my channel, Miguel continued. We won't let cruelty defeat humanity. Money cannot be worth more than compassion, Miguel stated to the camera. I want to thank everyone who stopped to listen to her story, concluded Roberta, holding Mateo's hand. Your empathy and support mean the world to us and to those going through hardships, Roberta expressed. Don't give up. There's always a light, even in the darkest moments, and you have to keep searching for it, she encouraged. Miguel turned off the camera, knowing they had captured something truly special. Thank you very much, Roberta, Mateo. Your courage in sharing this will inspire many, he said. They looked at each other, united not only by the story they shared but by the determination to change the future. Moments after the emotional recording with Roberta and Mateo, Miguel felt a mix of anxiety and hope. With the family in his office, he knew the video had the power to touch hearts and provoke change. But he also understood the challenges and resistance they might face. With the camera still in hand, he sat in front of his computer, ready to take the next step. It's time to show the world your strength and courage, said Miguel to Roberta and Mateo as he uploaded the video to his social networks. This is the story of Roberta and Mateo, a struggle against adversity and the search for justice, Miguel's message read. But it's also a call to action for all of us. We can't close our eyes to the injustices around us, he emphasized. Watch, share, and help us make a difference, Miguel urged. As soon as the video was posted and notifications began to appear, comments of support, shares, and messages of solidarity flooded the networks. The video was beginning to go viral, reaching more and more people. As the day ended and throughout the night, Miguel saw the overwhelming response online. Look, Miguel, people are really moved by our story, said Roberta, excitedly reading the comments from strangers promising help and support. Mateo, with a shy smile, added, It's like we have a big family now, made up of people we don't even know, but who have a lot of love in their hearts. How can people be so good and charitable to strangers? I'm very happy with all this, he said. Watching the online reaction, Miguel felt a wave of gratitude and determination. This is just the beginning, he affirmed. We'll use this attention not only to help you, but also to shed light on the stories of many others who are silently suffering because of ruthless people like Salazar, Miguel added. Young man whose proud smile reached both ends of his face as the day progressed. The video reached views in numbers he had never seen in his previous work. Many people began to contact with messages of support, and even local newspapers and news channels requested interviews with Roberta, Mateo, and Miguel. Miguel turned again to Roberta and said warmly, You were amazing today. I want to reinforce the invitation that you can stay here for as long as you want, Miguel offered. And I'm sure some person or company will be able to help you and Mateo get out of this situation, he assured. That night, as Roberta put Mateo to bed in Miguel's modest home, she whispered, See, my love, your mom was right. There's always light, even in the darkest moments, and it seems like we've really found ours, Roberta expressed. Miguel is truly a very good person and eager to help others, and we should be very grateful to him, she added. Under the night sky, Miguel contemplated the stars, feeling humbled and inspired by the journey they had begun together. He knew the fight was far from over, but now they were stronger than ever, with Roberta and Mateo's video now going viral on social media. The wave of support and solidarity from the community was growing exponentially that night, as Miguel, Roberta, and Mateo began to feel the positive impact of their courage in sharing their story. An unexpected turn was about to happen. In his luxurious office, Mr. Salazar casually surfed the internet when he came across the video that was beginning to dominate online conversations. Initially, he didn't pay much attention, but soon his attention was caught by the images of Roberta and especially of Mateo. There was something about that child that made him pause, a disturbing resemblance that stirred something in his memory. Who is this child? I feel like I've seen him somewhere before, muttered Salazar to himself. Curiosity overcoming his usual indifference, Salazar called Marco. I want to know everything about that woman and the child from the video that's going viral on all networks now and fast, he ordered. The employee, accustomed to Salazar's whims, nodded and began to gather information about Roberta and Mateo. Meanwhile, Miguel received an unexpected notification, a direct message on his social networks, the same ones where he had posted the video, from none other than Mr. Salazar. In the message it was written, Esteemed journalist Miguel, I would like to discuss a matter related to what you posted personally. Please contact me to schedule. Miguel read the message several times, trying to decipher the intentions behind Salazar's sudden invitation. Upon learning of Salazar's interest, Roberta felt a mixture of hope and fear. What does he want with us, Miguel? Is there any chance we're in danger again? I'm tired of that man's humiliations. I don't think I should have mentioned him in the video, she said, worried. I'm not sure, Roberta, but maybe it's not something so bad after all, and I'll be there with you. We'll have to wait and see, replied Miguel, trying to maintain a calm and reassuring voice despite his own uncertainties. The next day, with the scheduled meeting, Miguel, Roberta, and Mateo were preparing for the encounter that could change their lives. Whatever he wants, we're in this together, and we'll defend each other no matter what, affirmed Miguel, looking at Roberta and Mateo with determination. We'll face this like we've done in the past few days, united and supporting each other. As they headed to the meeting with Salazar, the trio couldn't help but wonder about the businessman's intentions. Salazar's curiosity about Roberta and Mateo remained a mystery, but the truth was about to be revealed, marking the beginning of a new stage in their lives. As the light of the afternoon gave way to twilight, Salazar awaited the arrival of Miguel and the protagonists of his biggest story in his office anxiously. When they arrived, the big businessman greeted them cordially. "You must be Roberta," began Salazar, his voice unexpectedly soft for someone of his reputation. Roberta looked at him, surprised and somewhat apprehensive, recognizing the man in front of her, despite never having seen him before. "And this must be Mateo," continued Salazar, his eyes not disguising a mixture of surprise and excitement. Roberta, taking Mateo's hand, responded cautiously, "Yes, this is Mateo, but I don't understand why you've called us here. If you were responsible for us being homeless, what do you want from us?" There was a clear defensiveness in her voice, an instinctive maternal protection in the face of Salazar's imposing figure. The businessman, noticing the tension in her voice, affirmed, "Do you really think I should allow tenants to owe me while living in my apartments? That's not how business works. But after all this situation, I'm interested in asking, what happened to your husband? What you mentioned about him and your family in that video intrigued me." Roberta confronted Salazar with a mixture of surprise and distrust, his words echoing in her mind. "My husband's name was Alejandro. He passed away 4 years ago from epilepsy. The truth is that after his death, our financial situation worsened rapidly, but we always did our best to keep the rent up to date. It's incredible to me that someone of your stature and influence, knowing or not knowing the details, would allow a single mother and her son to be evicted to the street without any consideration. We never delayed the rent, and the first time this happened, we were kicked out like dogs," said Roberta, her tone charged with a mixture of pain and reproach. The revelation seemed to catch Salazar by surprise, his expression softening from Roberta's words. After a moment of reflection, Salazar responded with a voice that carried a weight not previously perceived by Roberta, and with a tear running down the face of the renowned businessman. "Now I understand the resemblance. Alejandro was my son, Miss Roberta. I was aware of the eviction, but you see, I thought I was acting in the best interest of efficiency and progress for my company. However, I never imagined that I would be affecting the life of my own son's family in this way. Yes, Alejandro walked away, but he was still my beloved son. His departure left a void, and I simply didn't know all this about you." Salazar's confession, though belated, revealed a side of him that Roberta didn't expect, a man perhaps regretting the decisions made in the shadow of his own distorted principles. "Alejandro never let me meet you or any member of his family. He feared that you wouldn't approve of our relationship, our marriage. Now I understand he had reasons for it," continued Roberta, her voice now firmer, but still marked by the emotion of the revelation. "After his death, I fought to keep Mateo safe and happy, even in the most challenging circumstances. And now here we are, evicted by your order, our life exposed and fragile." Salazar, confronted with the reality of the consequences of his actions, seemed genuinely disturbed. "I sincerely didn't know that Alejandro had formed a family, much less that my grandson was living under such conditions. This changes everything. My vision was clouded by the desire for success and more money, without realizing who I was harming in the process." It's a failure that I can't simply ignore, admitted Salazar, the sincerity in his voice surprising Roberta. I want to make amends for the damage I caused, not only because you are the family of Alejandro, but because it is the right thing to do. And it is through actions. So he didn't want to introduce me to the woman he loved the most and his son. I will ensure that you have a new home that is dignified and safe. Furthermore, I commit to covering any expenses related to Mateo's education. That's what I can do to begin to repair the damage caused, declared Salazar, his stance reflecting a newly found determination. And as for the eviction, it was a mistake that I completely assumed. My ambitious pursuit blinded me to the human impact of my decisions. Roberta listened uncertainly about how to feel regarding Salazar's sudden change of attitude. However, the possibility of a new life for her and Mateo, a life without the constant worries of where they would sleep or how they would get their next meal, allowed her to feel a glimmer of hope for the first time in a long while. If your words turn into actions, began Roberta, looking into Salazar's eyes, then perhaps we can begin to believe again that there is justice in this world. For Mateo's sake, I am willing to see where this leads us. Salazar continued, I know I'm not in a position to ask this, but I ask that you trust me. I will expedite everything to ensure that you are comfortably accommodated, and for the lady to have employment as soon as possible. Any assistance you need, you can ask me, and I will gladly provide it. My son and I didn't have a very good relationship, but he was a great man, and I am proud of everything he achieved during his life. And I'm sure this is what he would want me to do in this situation. After Salazar's promise to rectify the mistakes made against her and Mateo, Roberta remained pensive, reflecting on the extent of Salazar's influence and the possibilities that his change of heart could bring. Mr. Salazar, began Roberta, her voice laden with a newfound determination, while I appreciate your willingness to help us and believe in your sincerity, there is something else I would like you to consider. We are not the only ones who have suffered from your decisions. There are many other families, many Mateos, who have lost their homes due to policies that prioritize profit over people. Salazar, listening attentively, nodded slightly, indicating to Roberta to continue. What are you suggesting? He asked, curiosity evident in his gaze. I would like you to extend your hand not only to us, but to all those who have been evicted from their homes for being unable to pay a simple rent fee. To review your practices and offer a way to compensate these families, to give them a chance to start anew, just as you are doing with us. This would not only restore faith in justice, but also demonstrate that your transformation is genuine, that Alejandro's legacy and Mateo's future can inspire real change, explained Roberta, her proposal reflecting not only hope for a better future for her own family, but also for the community at large. Salazar remained silent for a moment, absorbing the implications of what Roberta was asking. You're right, Roberta. My regret for my past actions should not end with a single gesture. True reparation requires a continuous commitment to change and accountability. I will review the eviction cases and see what can be done to help these families to ensure that they have the assistance and support necessary to rebuild their lives. Encouraged by Salazar's response, Roberta felt a mix of relief and hope. Thank you, Mr. Salazar. I believe that together we can make a difference and build a stronger and fairer community. In the days that followed, Salazar kept his word, initiating a program to aid the evicted families, offering not only financial compensation, but also assistance in finding new homes and employment opportunities. The news of the initiative spread quickly, transforming public opinion about Salazar and generating a movement of support and solidarity within the community. Roberta, witnessing the changes that her conversation with Salazar had triggered, felt a profound gratitude. She knew that the road ahead would still be challenging, but now there was hope not only for her and Mateo, but for many others who had been forgotten. And in that moment, she knew that Alejandro's memory and Mateo's future were secure, protected by a community that had learned to come together in times of need. And the good news continued. During the passing months, it was then that one day Miguel and Mateo stood in front of Roberta's new bakery, built with love. After she managed to stabilize in the job that had long been the livelihood for her and her son, the two admired the vibrant facade with the name Roberta's Sweetness hanging above the door. "Uncle Miguel, look how many people!" exclaimed Mateo, holding Miguel's hand, his eyes shining with excitement. Miguel smiled at the boy. "It's all the result of your mother's hard work and the help of our community. You must be very proud of her," he said, guiding Mateo inside where an opening party was in full swing. Roberta, behind the counter full of colorful sweets, looked up and saw Miguel and Mateo entering. Her face lit up with a smile. "Mateo, Miguel, I'm glad you came. Mateo, do you want to try the first piece of our special opening cake?" "Yes," replied Mateo excitedly as Miguel nodded in approval. "You've done something amazing here, Roberta. You turned adversity into something sweet, literally," joked Miguel, observing the contagious joy on everyone's faces. Roberta laughed gratefully. "We wouldn't have made it without the support of friends like you, Miguel. This place is more than a bakery. It's a symbol of our journey and overcoming." The exchanged looks between Roberta and Miguel spoke of gratitude, friendship, and a promising future built on the pillars of community and mutual support. Miguel's trajectory since the publication of Roberta and Mateo's story had been remarkably good. The viralization of the video not only changed the life of the family, but also had a profound impact on Miguel's career. Admired for his courage and journalistic integrity, the young man saw his social media followers skyrocket, attracting the attention not only of the public, but also of major journalism companies. He received an irresistible offer as chief journalist. With this opportunity, Miguel not only managed to secure financial stability, but also fulfilled his long-term dream of remodeling his house and building an office worthy of his commitment to truth and social justice. On a sunny afternoon, Roberta and Miguel sat in Miguel's new office, surrounded by bookshelves and an inspiring view of the city. They had become friends, united by an experience that transformed their lives. "Can you believe everything that has happened since that first day you came to interview us until now?" asked Roberta, a grateful smile on her face. Miguel looked around, reflecting on the incredible journey. "It's almost unbelievable, Roberta. But you know, I always believed that your story needed to be told. What I didn't know was how it would lead us to this point. It changed our lives, but also showed the power of community and empathy, and it even taught a life lesson to an ambitious man." They talked about the challenges overcome, the lessons learned, and the dreams for the future. It was evident that although the storm had passed, the strength and friendship they built would remain an eternal reminder of the lasting impact of sharing an exciting story of overcoming. You have reached the end of another exciting narrative on our channel. We invite you to leave your like and comment. As that helps us continue to publish new stories of overcoming almost daily for you. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next ones.